Welcome, crafty friends, and Collins here for Pajama Crafter Stamps. Today we're going to create this watercolored floral card. Let me go over the products I use for this. I use the Together stamp. This stamp has a large floral image here and two larger sentiments which read together and wonderful, and then a bunch of mini sub sentiments that you can combine with those two larger sentiment words. So today we're going to use the You Are Wonderful, but there are lots of fun ways to combine these to create fun sentiment for any card. Again, we're going to use the large floral and the You Are Wonderful. I have some cardstock here. This is watercolor cardstock. This is from my stash. We'll be using that. And then let me grab the rest of the components of my card here. I die cut this circle peekaboo from vellum, but I'm trying to debate if whether I'm going to use it. I do not end up using it, but I still have it. I wanted to show you the circle peekaboo die. I will link it below for you in case you're interested. I have this here background that I left. It's like a burlappy thing. I left some of the pieces in for texture. I have a layering cardstock and my card base. The layering cardstock is like a peachy kind of color. And then from Pajama Crafter, these rhinestones, they're called Girl's Best Friend. They're nice and shiny, but neutral. Embellishment Tray. Now, I'm using Nocturne ink for our image, and I'm going to emboss it with Clair embossing powder. I'll use my frog press to get nice even coverage because I'll be stamping onto some watercolor paper. I have my anti-static powder and brush tool. I'm going to be using some dye inks to watercolor. You can use any kind of watercolors you own. I just wanted to show you if you have dye inks or water reactive inks, they're perfect for watercoloring. And most of us gray cards do have those. All right, so I'm going to clear my desk, put everything aside, and we're going to start by stamping our image. Now I'm going to increase the speed here a little bit just to save us some time. Right, so I put my panel in, I have my panel here ready to go. I'm going to brush it with anti-static powder because we're going to be doing some heat embossing first. I'm going to put my panel in my stamp press here, right there, and then I'll get it from the release. And once I pull it off the release, it's going to be take a minute to go back to sizing. It always does when you peel a stamp. Just give it a second. Just let it sit for a second. Once you do, it's ready. Now now you can pick it up. This will avoid air bubbles being behind your image. So I'm going to remove any of the anti-static powder that got on my image. I'm going to ink it up with, like I said, VersaFine Clair Nocturne, a nice black ink. This ink takes longer to dry, so it's perfect for heat embossing. So I'm going to use my frog press and give firm pressure. Why? Because this is textured cardstock, because it's watercolor cardstock, and it takes more pressure than regular cardstock to take the image nicely. So I'm doing it again, making sure that it gives nice even pressure. I love that there's a little foam, not foam, that's felt, a felt pad on the bottom, so it glides nicely across the stamp positioning tool, and it's nice on your hand. Plus, he's so cute. Okay, so now I'm going to use the clear embossing powder. This allows my lines to stay nice and black and I can see them. You can, of course, use gold embossing powder, any embossing powder you prefer. I'm using clear because I want my lines of my images to stay black. Why do I emboss? Well, it's a cheat. It helps contain the water as much of the watercolor within the image. You don't have to heat emboss. You can just use a pigment ink like Nocturne Clair, VersaFine Clair in any color. And that will keep, you can use that for watercoloring because it won't smear. But heat embossing just contains the water. It helps it. It's a cheat. Just it. So if I'm heat embossing, I like to heat from behind first to kind of set my powder. And then I continue from going back and forth from front to back so that minimizes the warping of my image. Because, you know, when you apply heat to one area, it will warp. So if you do it both sides, it will minimize it. You know your embossing powder is set once it goes to shiny. It goes from dull to shiny, and then it's all set. Do that, make sure it's all good. And once it is, I'm going to take this and let it just cool off. It's really hot, and the embossing powder is still quite liquidy. It's the best way, it's melting. So if you touch it, it can smear. While that's cooling off, we're going to stamp our sentiment. So I'm going to grab my extra piece of cardstock that I have over here. I'm going to put it into my platform, and then we can stamp our two sentiments. I got to remove my image here. I'm going to clean it so I can pick it up so I don't get black ink all over my hands and all over all the paper. So let me get this out of our way. And I'm sorry for the glare. In order for it to be nice and bright for you to see, I need the lights, but unfortunately, they shine off the platform. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get that going. I'm going to use the same black ink, the same VersaFine Clair, to stamp our sentiment. Use my frog press once again, my pet press, to get nice even coverage. But now I'm not pressing as hard, just gently moving it across. All right, I'm going to set that aside, clean my stamps, get our desk all cleaned up because we want everything out of our way so we can watercolor. And I want to put these stamps right back into the carrier because I don't want to lose them or misplace them. Right, now I will bring my image. It's now all cooled off. I'm wiping off any excess powder that might be left behind. And I'm going to bring in a plastic palette. This plastic palette is where I'm going to press some of the ink onto it. And I'll be using this as, of course, my palette, hence the name. All right, I'm going to bring in 2 shades of red, a little bit of orange, and 2 shades of green for our leaves. Now I'm using the Stellar inks. You use whatever water reactive dye inks you have in your stash. Most of us card makers have a variety. And I'm using a watercolor brush. This is a watercolor brush. It's a brush you can hold water. You don't have to get any separate water. Great for traveling, but great for in your stash. If you don't have that, a regular watercolor brush will do. I start by watercoloring, well, not watercoloring, by painting with plain water. Then I just drop in a little bit of the dark green, and then I drop in the lighter green. And then it mixes all on its own on the image. I'll repeat that. I color first, I paint first, I should say, with plain water. And then I drop in a little bit of the darker green and then the lighter green, and I let them blend. If they don't blend on their own, I give them a little nudge by dragging one or the other color into each other. And then they blend nicely. I repeat this for all of the leaves. Except 1 or 2, I color straight just one color. Like this one is quite twisted, like it's bent. So I want to just keep it darker. For the stems, I keep the darker green as well. As you can see, I pull it right there. And there you go. And then I drop a little bit of the lighter green. And it moves really quickly. This is simple, quick, and easy. This technique, by the way, if you're wanting to look up watercolor terms, it's called the wet on wet technique, because you apply water first and then you drop in your pigment and let it blend on its own. This way it blends easier, nicely, and you don't get like any ridges because you're stopping and you're not blending them out. It's super easy, so it moves really fast. Now I do have this sped up, but it does go pretty quickly. Now I'm almost done with our last leaf here, and I have to finish that little stem right there. And then we can move on to our little petals of our flowers. I'll start with the smallest one here. And then right here, as you can see, I didn't clean my brush enough, and I have some green. To clean it, I just add a little more clear water, and then I used the paper towel to dab up any of the extra. I start off applying, again, the same technique, wet on wet, water first, and then the pigment. I use the darker color red, and then I blend in the light. But I noticed about, not quite yet, I'll notice that my colors, my darker red and my lighter red are too similar. I'm going to need something a little more bold, and I will get a darker red here in a moment. So I move on to I did it again. I pulled in some of the green. I accidentally touched one of the leaves and pulled it in. As you can see, I used the paper towel to just quickly clean it up. I'm going to do the same thing for the larger one. Water first, and then I apply my darker, and then I go ahead and mix in the lightest. For the florals, I'm bringing a little touch of a pale orange color because these are, to me, I believe these are peonies, and peonies have like a little bit of orange in their tips, the ones I've seen. All right, so we're going to go ahead. Here's where I brought in a little bit darker red, and I'm going to put the red first. And I'm going to, since the little one is still quite wet, I'm able to blend in the darker red. There we go. All right, see how that blends much better? Now it pops even more. So now I've added the darker red all in the little crease areas, like so. And then I'll blend in the lighter reds. And then I'll drop in a little bit of our orange. There. And those, that let them all blend with the water. Basically, you're letting the water do all the hard work of blends and all that. Super easy, great for beginners, this technique. And you can do this with any image that you want to watercolor, not just florals. I think it works the best on florals because, they're easier to blend, but it works with any image you want to use. Again, I want to apologize for any glare that my lamps are causing, but unfortunately, in order for you to see this and keep it nice and bright, our lamps are required. All right, so I'm almost done here with our large image. I'm going to continue doing the same thing throughout. Now, this stamp set is so versatile. With all those sentiments that you have here, you can create encouragement cards, you can do love cards. Beautiful. And you can use the sentiments with other stamps because there's so many of them. You can use this sentiment with any dies that we have. We have a thank you and other ones that you can use with this image. All right, so we're finishing off our last few petals up here. Here I add mostly the darkest, a little bit of the lighter red, and then I blend out with the orange towards the top right there. There we go. I need a little bit more because it's just blending out. It needs a little more pop. And I dab off anything too wet. If anything's too dark or too wet, you can just dab off, and then it allows you to blend in another color. Here we go. We are done. So now I have to let this dry. So let me get this palette out of our way. That avoids all the glare. All right. Now this needs to dry. You can heat set this if you prefer. I like to let it dry on its own because if you heat set it, you run the chance of reactivating the embossing powder, and I don't want to do that. So I'll let this dry and then I'll fussy cut it. Now we're back because I fussy cut it out. As you can see, I took my time leaving just a little edge. I also fussy cut the word wonderful, and I trimmed down our sentiment, the other part of our sentiment. And I also put foam adhesive behind our sentiments and our image. Now we can start building our card. So I'm going to lay this out to see if I like the vellum circle. It's getting lost, so I'm going to just save that for another card because I have lots of fun cards to create. And I'm going to bring in my adhesive and start gluing everything down. Now I keep my adhesive in our cupcake holder, which is perfect to hold your glue. It has a stopper on the bottom that you can see barely in the screen. If you leave your bottle upside down, it holds all the glue without getting messy. And that little heart is magnetic so that you can hold your needle on there. So I'm going to start by adhering this little die cut piece that I have here that I've cut from a pale rosy color to bring in those colors that are in the floral. and I'm adhering it to my layering cardstock. This I will adhere now, this panel, to my card base. This is just direct glued on. There we go. Let me get back in screen. And then I will pop up our floral onto this. I'm going to use some sheer shimmer craft spray in gold, but first I want my image down because I want a little bit of those splats of gold on my image. It's going to be hard to see on this camera thing here, but you will see it in real life. You have these little splatters of gold and you catch it. So pretty. So I'm going to grab my little brush, give my craft spray here a good shake because there's pigments and they all settle on the bottom. I run my brush in there, dab off any excess, and just do some splattering. Simple. Just tap my brush and drop them everywhere. I want some on the floral and some on the background. Yes, this can reactivate the watercolor because I didn't seal my watercolor, but if you just leave it alone, don't touch it, it dries. But if you touch it and it smears, it can smear your watercolor. Just letting you know. So I brought in some metallic thread. This is JP Coats metallic thread. And I'm just going to make a little bundle. And I'm going to place this behind the word wonderful. So what I'm doing here is I'm removing the backing of my foam adhesive so I can just push the thread onto it. So I'm just going to bundle it, push it on there. That way I can grab the pieces that are too wide, just push them on, and the foam adhesive grabs them. Now I can place my sentiment down here, there, press it in place. And then the wonderful, I can just nestle just above that once I get it how I want it. And our card, you can call it done. I want to add a little bit more shimmer to it. So I'm going to bring in the girls' best friend rhinestones. And I'm going to add them. I have my embellishment tray here. And this embellishment tray is perfect because it has these little ridges in it. And it holds your gems without them spewing all over the place. And I grab my embellishment wand, which will help me place all of my little rhinestones. I have a little gap here, so I'm going to put a little more glue. There we go. All right, now I can just pick the rhinestones I want and place them on all those little dots of glue I put around our card. And this will catch, right now it's hard to see. One, my hands are in the way, and two, it's just us laying flat, but right now they're just, the glue is showing behind it. The glue dries clear, so the stones will shine perfectly. But once the glue dries, you hold it up and your eye catches those little shimmers from those stones. Very pretty. There's a great variety of embellishments in the shop. All of it will be linked for you below. Okay, so here's our finished card. Do you see the little catches of shimmer? So pretty. You have the shimmer from the splatter and from the rhinestones. So let's go over the products one more time. I used the Together stamp. It has the big focal image and it has a great variety of sentiments for you to choose from. And Girls Best Friends rhinestones, which we use to add that extra little bling to our card. Everything else that I use, the inks and so forth, I will have for you in the description box. There are affiliate links. They do not cost you anything, but they do help me out. But thank you so much for being here. I'm going to give you another look at our card. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know. If you want to see more cards with watercoloring, let me know. I will gladly make some more for you. Thank you for being here. I hope you found some inspiration. Don't forget to like and subscribe.